Good evening. I'm Captain Marcus Brooks. After 28 years in the skies, I thought I'd seen every kind of passenger. I was wrong. Tonight's story is about a man in a worn jacket, a billionaire who called him nobody, and 7 minutes that changed both their lives forever. This is the story of Flight 1140. The gate agent's smile died the second she looked up from the boarding pass. "Business class," she said slowly, like she was reading it twice to make sure it wasn't a mistake. Her eyes moved from the frayed cuff of Noah Bennett's canvas jacket down to jeans washed pale as bone, stopping on scuffed work boots and a small backpack. No roller bag, no leather, nothing that said this man belongs up front. "4A," she said. "Enjoy your flight, Mr. Bennett." He walked down the jet bridge with his heart pounding, not because of her look. He'd let those slide off him a long time ago. His heart pounded because of the number he couldn't stop seeing. 8 a.m., Boston, family court, tomorrow. His daughter was on the other side of that room. Mia, 6 years old, gap in her front teeth, a laugh that filled every room she was in. 18 months since her mother, Noah's wife Claire, had passed. 18 months of Mia living with her grandparents, Richard and Diane Ashford, while Noah rebuilt everything from a construction job and a one-bedroom apartment. 18 months of proving over and over that grief hadn't broken him. Tomorrow, a judge would decide if Mia came home to him for good. He'd sold his motorcycle to buy this ticket. Business class, the only seat left on the only flight that landed in time. He stood at the airport kiosk and stared at the price until his eyes burned. Then he thought of Mia's face and pressed confirm. He found 4A, dropped his backpack, sank into the wide leather seat. "Almost there, baby girl. Daddy's coming." It was the last quiet second he'd get. The man in 4C arrived in a cloud of cologne and contempt. Silk tie watch worth more than Noah made in a year. He didn't sit so much as take possession of the seat. "Excuse me," he snapped his fingers at a passing attendant without looking at her. "Is there a coat closet, or am I hanging this next to whatever that is?" He glanced at Noah's boots. The attendant nearly tripped over herself. "Of course, Mr. Cole, right away." Noah said nothing. He'd learned that too. You don't feed it. Then the whole cabin changed. A hush rolled from the front toward the back like a wave. Attendants straightening. A supervisor materializing from nowhere, tugging his jacket smooth. A man was walking down the aisle, tall, silver at the temples, in the expensive way, 2 assistants trailing behind him. Noah didn't know the face, but he knew the effect. "That's Grant Whitfield," Cole breathed, and for the first time there was reverence in his voice. Whitfield Capital, 3rd richest man in the country. Whitfield stopped at the front of business class, murmured something to the purser, glanced at a boarding pass with the faint disgust of a man finding a problem beneath him. Then the purser turned and looked down the aisle, at row 4, at Noah. Here it comes, Noah thought, and something cold slid into his gut. The purser crouched beside him, silver hair name tag reading, Margaret. Her voice dropped into the tone people use when they've already decided you'll give them what they want. "Mr. Bennett, I'm so sorry to bother you. We've had a little seating situation. A very valued passenger joined us last minute, and it seems there was an error with his seat. We'd love to move you to accommodate him." "Move me where?" "A lovely seat in the main cabin. Extra snacks, complimentary drinks." "No. Quiet. Steady. I paid for this seat. 4A. It's mine. I need this flight and I need this seat." "Sir, I don't think you understand." "I understand fine." His hands had curled into fists on his knees. He forced them open. "I paid more than I had for this ticket. I'm not trying to cause trouble. I just can't give it up." Cole chuckled beside him. Unbelievable. Whitfield came down the aisle himself, unhurried, stopped over Noah, smiled a warm, camera-ready smile that didn't touch his eyes. "Friend, let's not make this a whole thing. Here's what I'll do. I'll buy your ticket, the whole thing, and add 4,000 cash for your trouble. You walk back, pocket the money. Everyone's happy." Someone whispered behind Noah, "Just take it. Are you insane? $4,000. Noah thought about the lawyer he'd paid in installments. He could barely make the plane tickets he'd scraped together over 18 months. And then he thought about standby, about missing his connection, about watching this plane push back without him, and losing the one hearing that would decide whether he ever tucked his daughter in again. Because that was what Whitfield didn't understand. It was never about the money. "No, thank you." Whitfield's smile slipped a fraction. "No?" For a long moment, the billionaire just stared, understanding he was looking at a man who did not hear that word. Not from anyone, and certainly not from this. The boots, the jacket, the backpack. Cole couldn't stand it. "Do you have any idea how ridiculous you look? Know your place, nobody. Some airline glitch let you buy a seat you can't afford, and now you're holding up people who actually matter. Know your place." The old shame rose up hot in Noah's chest. He'd heard every version of it, from the foreman who passed him over, from the loan officer who slid his application back without a word, From Richard Ashford himself at the funeral, murmuring to his wife that Noah wasn't built for this. Noah thought of Mia at the airport, wrapping her arms around his neck, whispering, "You'll come get me, right, Daddy? You promise?" He'd promised. "My place," Noah said quietly, "is on this flight, and I'm keeping it." A duty manager arrived, a heavier braid on his shoulders. "Sir, gather your things and come with me. If you refuse, I call security and you're removed from this aircraft. That means you don't fly today. Is that what you want?" Noah's heartbeat climbed into his throat. "You don't fly today." The whole thing was coming apart in his hands. "Please," he said, hating how the word cracked. "You don't understand. I have a custody hearing tomorrow morning. My daughter's 6. If I'm not there, not my concern, sir. Do you cooperate or do I make the call?" The duty manager reached for the radio on his shoulder, and in that exact second, Noah's eyes went to the window. He didn't decide to. 11 years of habit he'd tried and failed to shake. Past the trailing edge of the wing at the base of the engine pylon, he saw it. A stain, dark, wet, spreading. A slow bloom of fluid weeping down the white metal, catching the gray airport light with a faint red sheen. Hydraulic fluid. Noah went cold all over. He knew that color. He'd spent 11 years as an aircraft maintenance technician, hydraulics, before the layoffs took the whole department. His job had been finding the small wrong thing before it became the enormous fatal one. "Stop," Noah said. Nobody heard. He stood so fast his knee cracked the seat back in front of him. Every head in business class snapped around. "There's a hydraulic leak on the number 2 engine pylon," he said. His voice had changed completely. Flat, fast, certain. Right side of the housing aft of the fairing. Fluid weeping down the metal, pooling on the leading edge. "I've been watching it for a minute and it's getting bigger. You cannot fly this airplane." Silence. Then Cole laughed, an ugly, disbelieving bark. "Oh, this is rich. Now he's an aircraft engineer." 11 years certified hydraulic maintenance tech, Noah said, not blinking. "This airframe runs 3 independent circuits at 5,000 psi. What I'm looking at is a leak on the right circuit at the pylon interface. If it's weeping on the ground before you've even pressurized for takeoff, you've got a compromised line. The second you demand full pressure on rotation, that line opens up completely. Lose it at the wrong moment, and you lose the airplane." The whole cabin went dead silent. You could dismiss a man's boots. You couldn't dismiss the sound of a man who knew every word he was saying. Whitfield had had enough. "This is absurd. This man is fabricating a crisis because he doesn't want to give up his seat. Call his bluff. Get him off." "It's not oil," Noah said, not even looking at him. "Oil's amber and thin. This is heavier, red under the light, running slow. I've had both on my hands 10,000 times. I'm not confusing them." He turned to the duty manager. "I'm begging you, do the inspection first. If I'm wrong, you've lost 5 minutes. If I'm right and you push back anyway," he let it hang. "You've read the reports. Everyone in that uniform has read the reports." The duty manager's jaw worked. Then he keyed his radio. "Ground gate 47. Need a maintenance tech at the aircraft now. Possible hydraulic fluid on the number 2 pylon housing. Hold departure." The cabin exhaled. The next 9 minutes were the longest of Noah's life. He watched a maintenance truck pull up beneath the wing. A tech in a high-vis vest climbed out, looked up, went rigid, reached up with a gloved hand, touched the housing, looked at his fingers, then grabbed his radio and started talking fast, waving hard at the cockpit. 1 truck became 3. Men swarmed the pylon. Someone photographed the housing. The captain's voice came over the PA, clipped and tight. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been made aware of a maintenance issue. Out of an abundance of caution, I'm returning us to the gate." The line had blown out completely on the pressure test, spraying fluid across the tarmac in a red arc that sent 2 ground crew jumping backward. If it had held just long enough to get them airborne, if it had let go on rotation or an hour into the flight, nobody finished the sentence. Noah sat with his hands shaking. What he felt wasn't triumph. It was cold, sick horror, because he understood better than anyone on that plane exactly how close it had come. Cole turned to him, white as paper. "You saw it. You told me to sit in the back. If they'd taken you off," he couldn't finish it. "I know," Noah said. Whitfield hadn't said a word in a long time. He sat in the seat he'd fought for, staring straight ahead, his entire understanding of the world quietly demolished. The captain himself came down the aisle, stopped at row 4. "You're the one who spotted the leak?" "Yes, sir. The line let go on the test stand 10 minutes ago. Complete failure of the fitting. If we'd rotated with that line in that shape, we'd have lost the circuit somewhere over open air, probably at the worst possible moment." He looked Noah dead in the eye. "You understand what you did?" "I do." The captain extended his hand in front of the whole cabin. "Thank you. You saved my flight. You saved a lot of people who will never fully understand how close they came." The cabin, the same cabin that 20 minutes earlier had murmured for him to be dragged off, began one by one, then all at once, to applaud. But Noah wasn't thinking about the applause. He was thinking about the clock. This aircraft wasn't flying anywhere tonight, and his hearing was tomorrow morning in Boston, 500 miles away, and he was still sitting on a tarmac, no closer to his daughter than he'd been an hour ago. The captain's voice came back over the speakers. "This airplane is not going to Boston tonight. Our team is rebooking every passenger." A groan rolled through the cabin. Noah felt the whole night collapse inward. The truck he'd sold the ticket he couldn't afford, the promise, all of it funneling down to one fact. The plane that was supposed to carry him to his daughter was dead on the tarmac. Whitfield caught his arm as he moved up the aisle. "Wait, tell me what the hearing is," Noah told him. Mia Claire's death, the 18 months of proving himself, the grandparents' legal team. He couldn't match the judge who'd said plainly, "The one thing that ends this is not showing up." For a long moment, Whitfield just stood there. Then he took out his phone. "David, it's Marcus. I need the Gulfstream. I don't care that it's at Teterboro. I need it wheels up in 90 minutes with 2 passengers to Boston." A pause. "Because I owe somebody a very large debt, and I intend to pay it tonight." Noah stared, mouth dry. "Why would you do this?" "Because you didn't take the $4,000, Whitfield said, voice thickening. "I've spent 30 years believing everybody has a price. You sat there with your back rent and your custody battle and you said no, because there was something you wouldn't sell. Your daughter." He looked away. "Let me be for one night the kind of man you already are." The jet climbed into the sky over Teterboro at 9:01. Somewhere over Pennsylvania in the humming dark, Whitfield's composure cracked. "I had a daughter," he said quietly. "Emily. She'd be 34 now. When she was 6, I was building the company. Always a deal, always a flight, always something more important than a school play." His eyes were wet. "Her mother and I divorced. I told myself I'd make it up to her when things settled down. Told myself that for 20 years. Then one day I realized I hadn't spoken to my own daughter in 3 years. What happened? Nothing happened. That's the worst part. No fight, no tragedy. She just stopped. Grew up, moved away, built a life I wasn't in." He wiped his eyes. "I sent her a message on her birthday last year. First time in 4 years. She wrote back 3 words. Thanks. Take care. That's what 20 years of choosing the deal over the daughter buys you." Noah reached across the little table and gripped the older man's forearm. "When this is over, you call Emily. Not a text, a call. You tell her exactly what you just told me." Whitfield shook his head. "It's too late." "It's not too late until one of you is dead," Noah said fierce. "You just told me not to give up. You want to give me that speech and not take it yourself? That's the price. You flew me across the country. This is what it costs." For a long moment, Whitfield just stared. Then something broke open in his face, something locked tight for 2 decades, and he laughed short and astonished. "Deal," he said. "God help me. Deal." His phone lit up. Not from Sarah, his lawyer, from Diane Ashford, Mia's grandmother. Noah's stomach dropped. "I know you're not going to make it. Don't drag this out with some desperate stunt. Just let it happen the way it was always going to. Mia is settled here. She has a life. If you love her, you'll stop." For one terrible second it worked. Whitfield read it over his shoulder, and his face went hard. "That message is not about Mia," he said. "It's about a woman who just found out she might lose. She's trying to get you to quit yourself because her lawyers can't stop you anymore. But your own guilt might. I know that message. I sent it to myself for 20 years, except no one had to send it. I sent it myself and called it love. It was cowardice to wear a halo." He looked at Noah. "Don't quit. Fly to your daughter and let a 6-year-old decide for herself whether her father showing up breaks her heart. I promise you it doesn't." Noah locked the phone face down. "You're right." A second text came from a fellow passenger, Adam Cole, the man who'd sneered, "Know your place. My firm has an office near Boston. If you need a car, a runner to the courthouse, anything, call me. I owe you a debt I can't pay." Then a third came, and a fourth. In the strange electric way these things travel, Noah's number had passed hand to hand through a cabin full of strangers who'd watched him refuse to sit down, and every one of them was reaching across the dark to help him get to his daughter. They landed at 6:40 a.m., a fog rolling in over the runway that nearly cost them their approach slot. Noah, drawing on 11 years of ramp knowledge, walked the pilot through jumping the departure sequence. They touched down with barely 2 hours to spare. A car was waiting. Noah's lawyer, Sarah, called as they raced toward the courthouse. "Ethan, sorry, Noah," she caught herself breathless. "The grandparents' attorney got wind of your delay. He's going to argue your absence, even a near miss, proves the exact pattern they've been alleging all along. I have the maintenance log. One document, nothing else. Let the judge reach his own conclusion. Don't flood him with everything at once." They arrived at 8:58, 2 minutes to spare. Sarah met him in the corridor, and past her, through a half-open door, sat a small girl in a purple dress. swinging her legs because they didn't reach the floor. Mia, Noah breathed. She looked up, one long, terrible second, where he saw a child who'd been told things who wasn't sure. Then her whole face broke open like sunrise, and she was running, screaming, "Daddy!" And he dropped to his knees and caught her, holding her shaking body against his chest. "You came," she sobbed. "I knew you'd come. Grandma said maybe you couldn't, but I knew. I'm here, baby. I promised. And your daddy doesn't break promises." Diane Ashford stood at the end of the hall, watching, and something complicated crossed her face. Not triumph, something more uncomfortable. She didn't call Mia back. Inside, the grandparents' attorney, a sharp man named Mr. Corwin, argued exactly as predicted, that a father who arrives at the 11th hour, however dramatic the excuse, is still a father who wasn't there when it counted. Stability, he said, is not the grand gesture. It's the school run. It's the packed lunch. But then Diane Ashford rose against her own attorney's advice. "Your Honor, I have to say something." Her voice shook. "I just watched my granddaughter run down that hallway screaming that she knew he'd come. Not hoped, knew." She pressed her hand to her mouth. "I've spent 18 months telling myself Noah couldn't be trusted with her, and I knew deep down it wasn't true. I just needed it to be because if he's a good father, what does that make me for trying to take her from him?" She looked at Noah. "I'm not going to fight this way anymore." Corwin sat down, and there was nothing left to say. The judge, an older woman named Judge Reyes, asked Noah plainly, "You had a chance to reach here quietly with a clear conscience by staying silent about that leak. Why risk everything to speak up?" Noah answered with the truth. "Because Mia's always watching, Your Honor, even when she's not in the room. I couldn't teach her to do the right thing by doing the wrong one myself. What's the point of winning her back by becoming a man I wouldn't want her to grow up like?" Judge Reyes was quiet for a long moment. Then she made her ruling. Primary custody to Noah, with the Ashfords granted generous protected time with their granddaughter. Not a verdict built on tearing anyone down, but the truth finally seen clearly by everyone in the room. Outside, Mia ran into Noah's arms again. "Is it done? Do I get to come home with you now?" "For real, baby. For good." Down the hall, Grant Whitfield stood near the door's phone, trembling in his hand. "Emily," he said, voice young and frightened and hopeful all at once. "Sweetheart, it's your dad. I know it's early. I've been a coward for 20 years and I'm done being one. Can I just talk to you, please?" Mia tugged at Noah's collar. "Daddy, why is your friend crying?" Noah pressed his lips to his daughter's hair. "Because he just remembered something important, baby. It's never too late to come get the people you love. You just have to be willing to cross the ocean." That's the story of Flight 1140. Noah Bennett didn't set out to be anyone's hero that night. He just refused to stay quiet when silence would have been easier, and he refused to let $4,000 decide who he was. At 35,000 feet, everyone wears the same seatbelt. It's character, not the clothes on your back, not the money in your pocket, that decides who we really are when everything is on the line. If this story moved you, hit subscribe. There's always another flight, and always someone worth a second look.